Hello, Seth Peterson here. We're talking about step 6 of the buying process, the home inspection. Now, you might have other tests and inspections that you're going to do with the offer that you make, like the septic inspection or the radon test or things like that. But I'm just going to talk about the home inspection because it's the most common. Almost every buyer has this in their offer. Now, what is it? So the inspection contingency is protecting you, the buyer, and it's basically you doing your due diligence. And you're trying to find out if there are any significant issues with the property before you close on it. So the seller may have told you about a couple things, and you obviously walk through the house, but there might be things that you can't see. You probably didn't go into the attic. You probably don't know much about basement foundations, and probably didn't check out the furnace and the water heater and things like that. So it's a good idea to have a professional come in and kind of take a look through the house with a fine-tooth comb and kind of see what they can come up with. So that's what it is. And then what it says is that if you find defects, that you can then go to the seller and say, hey, I found these defects with the house and I want you to fix them. And if you don't fix them, I can walk away from this deal. So that's the protection that you're getting with the inspection contingency. One thing to point out there is I said the word defect, and that's something that's defined in the offer, and it's basically saying that something that either significantly affects the value of the house or significantly shortens the life of the house or is a health safety issue. If it fits one of those three things, then it could be considered a defect. So that's the definition of it, and it can be confusing because when you do the inspection, the inspector is going to complete an inspection report. And unfortunately, a lot of them use the word defect in the report, but they are not the ones defining what a defect is. The contract has the definition of defect, and that is what it is. So sometimes it's a gray area, unfortunately, and you and the seller might disagree, possibly, as to whether or not something is a defect. But that's between you and the seller and what the contract says. The inspector is not the one defining defect, even though they might say the word defect in their report. So unfortunately, that can cause some confusion during a transaction. So how does it play out in a typical transaction is typically you're going to do your inspection and you're going to get that report, and then you're going to, initially you're going to find out, are there more problems than I expected? Am I unhappy with what this report says about the house? And if so, then at that point maybe you want to ask the seller to do some things. So you could ask them to fix some of the things, or you could ask them for a credit. You're probably in the form of a closing cost credit to just kind of give you some money on hand after closing to fix those things. And that's pretty much it. Or you could just reduce the price. So those are typically the three things that you might try and negotiate if you find some defects that you're not really happy with or didn't expect at all. So what happens is usually you're trying to just negotiate something. So you're offering the seller like, hey, this is what I would like, and then the seller would maybe agree, or maybe they would come back and say, that's a little much. How about we do this? So basically it's just going to be possibly a back and forth, but it's a negotiation, and hopefully you and the seller can agree to something at that point. If you cannot agree, then before your deadline, you're going to decide if you want to give them a notice of defects. And that would be saying, hey, you have to fix these things or else the deal is off and I'm walking away. So that's, again, what I said before too. That's ultimately the protection you have and the right that you have. So if you feel that way about the house, where I only want to move forward if they fix these things, then that's when you're going to be giving them that notice of defects after you've been unable to agree to something else. If you are okay moving forward, you're like, you know what, we didn't agree to anything, but it's fine. I still want the house. I'm just going to move forward. Ultimately you can just choose not to give them a notice of defects and just move forward with the purchase, in which case they would not be repairing anything and you would just be taking it as is at that point. So that's basically it, covering the home inspection. So hopefully that's helpful. And next time we'll be getting into the financing and appraisal contingencies. So we will see you then.